नौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यत्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। So, in revising, consolidating, and focusing on some of the key things that we have already seen, and we will continue to focus on it. What we have seen is that the desire of everyone in the world is to be totally released from all sense of limitation, called moksha. Release from limitation is called moksha, stemming from the dhatu much, means to free yourself. So we have a sense of bondage in our life, whether we recognize it or not. People feel that I'm not in a jail, I'm living in a free society, I don't have any bondage. But you should understand the bondage being that any unhappiness as a result of anything is a bondage. Even hunger, thirst is a bondage. So we can appease our hunger and thirst and temporarily get rid of that bondage. But it doesn't completely go away. And this is also true for all the other bondages in life. Ultimately, the most stark bondage is death itself. And so the only reason that I don't find death, I don't fight death, is because I don't know how to do it. I'd like to. As you know, a lot of the old Egyptian kings and queens, they thought they can cheat death by mummifying themselves. So you find mummies of old kings and queens who could afford it. It was a big thing. And there's also, I believe, there's a lot of attempts to put, even today, to put yourself in some kind of a lotion, some medicine that does not let your body decay as fast, thinking that somehow by the time there's a hope that science can find a way out of death. And so when that happens, please apply it to me. Right now you don't have it, but I'll wait. So there's all kinds of attempts to release myself from all kinds of bondage. And this is given, everybody knows this. But here's the thing. We are making a fundamental mistake is what is called in Vedanta called Mula Vidya. Mula Vidya means Mula Avidya. When you concatenate it, it becomes Mula Vidya. Mula Vidya means the original ignorance, out of which other ignorances are derived, but that is the basic ignorance. And that ignorance is that moksha is something that is possible to be achieved. And achieved in a manner which is experiential. Just like appeasing a hunger is an experience of releasing myself from hunger for a few hours. Similarly, my feeling is that moksha must be able to be achieved in some manner or the other. So here we as Vedanta students were really committed to understanding what the Shastra is saying, should recognize the basic mistake that we are making. So today's class will be on this particular mistake, which will build on what we have already done. So that, as I mentioned before, this will be kind of like consolidating and revising and focusing on all the things that we have done before. So for instance, what we have seen is that our approach towards finding a release from problems is experiential. And what that means is the following. We should really look into the pure analysis of this. So follow this reasoning. What this means is that in the view of everyone, moksha, the state where I want total freedom, is sadhya. Moksha is sadhya. Sadhya means that it needs to be established. Because everybody feels that I don't have a moksha right now. It's very obvious. I don't think about it every minute by minute, but it's very obvious I don't have moksha now. So it is something which is different from me. That's not my state today. Something different from me, which means it is to be achieved. This is the meaning of the word sadhya. Sadhya means, to be achieved. So this is the grammar. Whenever you say, you can even use tavya. This is a slightly different way of looking at it, but they're all similar. Like, for example, kartavya. Kartavya means to be done. Gantavya, to be reached, to be gone, to be traveled to. So sadhya means to be established. And you know this very well. What happens is that when you conclude that moksha is sadhya, it assumes that it is not anywhere near me. So this is what we saw in the last class, and we will build on it, that in terms of the three purushartha, which is karma, or dharma. So the four purusharthas are a sense of security, some fun and pleasure, and dharma. Artha, kama, and dharma are the three purushartha, and I try to keep it very close to me. That's what we saw in the last class. This is what we were talking about. We didn't quite finish it, but basically we want to keep it very close to us. And we mentioned that to our acharyas say that even, so this applies to all three of them. So for example, in the case of artha, artha means security. Money is security. You don't want money to be in a bank where it is very difficult to get. Preferably you want to keep it right in your own home. But because of the vulnerability of somebody coming in and taking it all away, it's the next best thing is to keep it close to you in a bank that you trust. So the closeness becomes an important aspect of it. In any case, what happens is that my basic methodology of gaining moksha is characterized by the fact that I conclude moksha is nowhere near me and I need to achieve it. I need to reach it. And I have a variety of different methodologies that I use to achieve it, that we have been revising, there that we have been talking about and will continue to revise. But they all fall under the same thing, that moksha is sadhya. Not with me, but I am hopeful to achieve it at some point in time. So in Shastra, this is considered to be the basic mistake. Why? Because, just for starters, we say that moksha is not sadhya but siddha. Siddha. And in fact, Atma is moksha. Atma is moksha, but I don't know that. So this is what the acharyas say, that the basic mistake we make is that moksha is considered to be sadhya by everybody else, and it is not something that you can see to be siddha itself. You are the moksha. Of course, the next question is, if I am the moksha, then how come I don't know it? How come I don't experience it? So as we have seen that it is very possible, as the example of the 10th man, that you could actually be complete in itself, but somehow you feel that you are incomplete. And the incompleteness results in the moksha being taken to be away from you. So you want to complete by doing things. This is the thing. So let's go further. And the way we do things has two forms. One is called pravritti marga and the other one is called nivritti marga. Pravritti marga means to do something. And nivritti marga means a method, a way of getting there. Nivritti marga means to avoid doing things. and eventually not doing anything at all. So this is what are the two methods. We want to either engage with the world, do things, be active, be successful, be friendly to everybody, live in some kind of a harmony with everyone, or I withdraw from all action and I just stay within just myself. And we do both of them. We do both of them. So for example, in yoga, yoga is a nivritti marga, that you don't, you just stay by yourself and you just meditate and you remove all thoughts from yourself. And if you keep doing it successfully, you will be happy. And this is what is called nivritti marga. So these are the two things. So now in doing this, we find that there is a flaw in both of them. So in the next section of the class, what is the flaw in this we have to look at. This is what we have to study. And to start things off, we will say that both in doing pravritti marga and not doing nivritti marga, there is a person involved. In other words, the basis of both of these methods assumes the reality of a person called Jiva, you and I, right? So when I do something, I am the one that is doing it. And when I am not doing anything, you can ask somebody, hey, what are you doing? I'm not doing anything. You're not doing anything? Yeah, I'm not. I'm just sitting here, just resting. Are you thinking about anything? No, not really. I'm just doing nothing. No thoughts, no nothing. Just comfortably resting. So in both states where you are actually actively engaged, and in the other case where you are just quiet by yourself, both of them are based on a person called Karta, also called Jiva. So the Kartritvam, the doership, is also based on the Jiva, and the non-Kartritvam is also based on the Jiva. Okay? So we say that moksha and the Jiva, which is fundamental to both, is not going away anywhere. It is very stable. You as a person have a personality, and you are now engaged, you are working through that personality. So that personality is untouched. The only thing that you are manipulating is whether I am acting or not acting. But the basic person remains the same. So the flaw in this whole thing is that if you take yourself to be a basic person, what is the basic person? Is it unlimited or is it limited? It is limited, right? Limited in the sense that we all know that we had a beginning and there will be an end, and that there's variations in my life. I was young, now I am old, variation. So all those shatvikara, all the 6 modifications, all happened to me. That's me. So the flaw in this argument is that as long as you don't question the validity of the jiva itself, then by doing something or not doing something, you're not going to reach moksha. In fact, this is a very important teaching in the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter. So let me cite those shlokas from the Bhagavad Gita in order to make this point. And I must say that for a long time, I did not quite understand the logic of what Sri Krishna was saying to Arjuna. I accepted it, but with a degree of non-clarity in my mind. And with some much more study and with more teaching by Swami Akhandananda, the very fundamental flaw now is becoming clear to me. It is clear to me. And I understand the meaning of these shlokas. So let me go over that with you. So there is a certain logic in the way of producing it. So let me go back to Bhagavad Gita. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, because here, as you know, there is a discussion between Sri Krishna and Arjuna about karma, the nature of it, knowledge, the nature of that, and continues on. A lot of the question answers and chapters and so on is due to trying to clarify the relative roles of karma and jnana. So it's as a result of that. So here some very interesting, very important rather, not just interesting, very important things are being pointed out. So let me, the verse that I want to really cite is number 18. Okay? But to get to that, just to give you the sequence of it, look at verse number 16 in the 4th chapter. So the number 16 goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Good heavens, nobody called me to, maybe somebody did. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that I had not put this on. So I don't know, I hope you got some of it, otherwise it wouldn't make sense, what I pointed out. So anyway, in the 4th chapter, in the Bhagavad Gita, the 18th verse is a very key one. And it's very confusing, really. For a long time, I too was very confused until I did studied some more and studied with Swami Akhandananda ji. And now I'm able to do a certain amount of viveka. So, here's how it goes. Number 16. Kim karma kim akarma iti kavayopyatra mohitaha kim karma kim akarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yat jnatva mokshase shubhat. So here the meaning of that is, Okay, what is the meaning of karma? And what is not doing, akarma? Even wise people are confused about it. Kavayo api atra mohita. It, it, it is not clear even to people who have been studying it. And I could tell I too was not really that clear about it. Tatte karma pravakshyami. So he gives the promise that I will tell you about the karma in such a way that, my friend, you will be clear about it. Tatte karma pravakshyami yat gyatva moksha se ashubhat. That you will reach moksha from ashubha. Ashubha means problems, some things that we don't like, and from that you will be released. So let me teach you what that is. Then number 17, karmano hyapi bodhavyam. Bodhavyam cha vikarmana. Akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gati. Again, by the way, the words bodhavyam is the same thing as similar to gantavyam, kartavyam. What is to be known? Bodhavyam means what is to be known. So he says the swarupa of karma should be known. So this is what we are teaching in this section and a few other classes also. And it should be distinguished from what is not karma. And once you do that, you'll be clear, but it is not easy. So he says that. He says, Gahana karmano gati. He says that it's very deep. Deep means it requires a lot of analysis and thinking and putting it into practice and all those kinds of things. Now comes the key verse. Karmanya karma yaf pashyet akarmani cha karma yaha sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta kritsna karma krita. Karmani akarma yaf pashyet. Akarmani cha karma yaha saha buddhiman manushyeshu sayuktaha kritsna karma krit. So this is the confusing one. He says that the one who sees that I am not doing anything even though karma is going on. So this is the first part. Karmani akarma yaf pashyet. Yaha means that wise person who is able to see that even while performing karma, any karma means any experience, anything to be done, so not just by hands, but by seeing and by thinking, any experience. That any experience that I'm going through, I am not affected. This is the first part. Karmani akarma yaf pashyet. Now comes the hard part. Akarmani cha karma yaf pashyet. In not doing anything, doesn't mean that there is no karma going on, there's no action going on. So the essence of karma is not in the presence of action or the absence of action. So this we will build on further, so be patient at this point. But one who is able to see the fact that the presence of karma or the absence of karma, so pravritti marga or nivritti marga, a person who is active in life, who thinks that company of people or thinking a lot, doing a lot, being very involved in things is the way to be happy. And by the way, I would say that the majority of the successful people in life are like that. And or generally relatively happy with life are those. They are just busy doing things. And you tell them just, why are you so busy? He says, I don't like not doing anything. I'm very active. Okay, so this is one kind. This is called pravritti marga. This is the first one. Karmani akarma yav pashyet. I mean, not quite the same thing, but I'll just give you the two segmentation. Then the second type of the person, and we see both types of people in life, are people that say, what is there in engagement with the life? How busy all the time, doing this, watching the news, and going places and doing that, the other. The best thing is to just stay with yourself and not do anything. So the person will say, aren't you bored? He says, I am a little bit bored, but you know what? I prefer it to just being running around doing things. That's it. I'm okay with myself. So this is the nivritti marga. This thought occurred to me. I remember my sister was 3 years older than me. And sometimes I would, because she was older, then I would ask for some advice from her. I remember this when I don't know how old I was, maybe 10, 11, something like that, when she was 13, 14. And I asked her, I said, can you tell me something? Which is worse, a superiority complex or an inferiority complex? I remember asking her that. I still recall that. And she had the right answer. She says, both of them are not good. I had a feeling that I had to choose one or the other. But any kind of, she was wise enough, was old enough and wise enough to recognize that both of them are defects. And so you should avoid both of them. So in some ways, this is exactly what is being said by Sri Krishna. He says that a life of activity and a life of inactivity both are binding. They don't release you. They don't release you. And so then he says the one who is able to understand this is considered to be wise. Saha manusheshu buddhiman saha. Yaha saha. The one who, that person is called truly a wise person. Why is that person called So I'll leave the Bhagavad Gita and then continue on with the logic. Because the Bhagavad Gita, of course, is a very long treatise, and it takes quite a while to kind of get to the very essence of the logic. It provides itself a different, and this is what I'm doing in my retreat in Sailorsburg, is that what I will do is to pick and choose from some key concepts and then see how some of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita have that sense and not go through chapter by chapter. This is what I'm planning to do. Kind of like a more in-depth version of today's class. So the question is, how is that? How can you, I can see that if there is action going on, actually that is not true. Both of them are confusing to people. How can you say that even when action is going on, I am not involved with it? Because I seem to be involved. The truth of the matter is you are not. This is what we have to see. So even there I'm confused. Then I'm further confused that if I'm sitting there doing nothing, how is that binding to me? Yeah, I can just I'm not bothering anybody. Nobody is bothering me. I'm just at peace with myself. Is that not freedom? So Sri Krishna says it is not. It is not. And he explains this in due course, which we will do more rapidly under the teaching of Swami Akhandananda, because he's focusing on this one point. It is not freedom. Even for a person who is not doing anything, this is not freedom. Why do you say that? It means that your understanding of freedom is flawed. And now we can pick up the thread from what I said earlier. The reason it is flawed is that you as a person remains unquestioned. So one can say, what's wrong with that? I am what I am. You're also telling me you should know the self and all of that. Vedanta says this is not knowing the self. This is a partial and a defective understanding of who you are. How? Because it is like in a dream where you appear to be acting but you are not. And you have to understand what the flaw of the dream is. And very similarly to that, as you know, under our Mandukya Upanishad and others, that so as it is a dream, so as it is in waking state. So in both cases, you taking to be a person, unquestioned, as something that you don't need to question. The validity of it, the truth about it is not enough for freedom. You need more than that. What is it more than I need? Okay? So here the logic goes as follows. And this is where I will draw upon with what we have already been building over the last few classes. So the logic of this flaw, why this does not allow me to feel I am free, and it doesn't. You ask a person who is not doing anything, are you truly free? He or she will not be able to answer that. They say, I don't know, I'm just quiet sitting there right now. I don't like to really be that engaged. But if you ask me, am I free? I'm not sure, and I don't think so. So even also would admit. Okay? So to see the logic of this, see the logic of the flaw, it's declaring that all my life's activities, including my status as a jiva, is a superimposition on myself. It is adhyaropa. It is a superimposition on the Atma. It is not the Atma itself. It is something which has been superimposed on myself. It is very much like seeing that the akasha, the space, is blue. It is not blue. The blueness is superimposed on the akasha. So the whole logic of my life and how I conduct it, my conclusions, my emotions, my attempts at freeing myself is at the level of superimposition. If this is the case, then even the person called the jiva, the individual person, is also part of the superimposition. This has to be seen. And as we have been discussing this in more detail on the Saturday morning class, on this whole point, that it is a adhyaropa, it is a superimposition which needs to be understood as something that is not my own nature. That's the meaning of the superimposition, isn't it? Blueness is, if I was the akasha, then blueness is not my nature. It is not my swarupa. My swarupa is that I accommodate everything. I accommodate the darkness of the night. I accommodate dust. I accommodate heat. I accommodate color. I accommodate weather. I can do a lot of, everything is in me. But I'm not affected by it. If that was my nature, if blueness was my nature, it will never go away. So what is Swarupa means? Something that never discards its original not the original, it never discards its nature. And if something can be discarded, that means it is not my nature. This is what is called adhyaropa. Right? Okay. So now, my sense that I am a human being with a body, mind, sense organs, organs of action. I'm a functioning human being. Regardless of the fact whether I'm doing action or I'm not doing action, the question is whether is that an adhyaropa or not. You see, that's the thing we should study, is that my own swarupa? The fact that I am a living being interacting with the world, is that my swarupa? Or is it an imposition on me? This is what I have to see. And the Shastra says, look into it. Examine it. Do Atma Vichara. Test it. See whether it passes your test or not. Because your Swarupa is something that never comes and goes. So, we proceed further and we say that even though you take yourself to be is a solid entity which is able to do karma and not do karma. Because the karma is something that comes and goes, but you are still there. So therefore, you glom on to the person who is there, whether I'm doing karma or not doing karma. So somehow you feel, I am not a superimposition, I am for real. This is a mistake. So on this point, let me now go into an excellent analysis of this viveka. This viveka of stability. This is a very important section which has been put together by Adi Shankara in his Brahma Sutra Bhashya. Okay? And in that Bhashya, which is explained very well in the teachings of Swami Akhandananda, extremely well done. Really, you can understand the whole thing clearly. So I'll give you the crux of it. Going into some detail will require, what that would require is that we actually study the Shankara Bhashya, study each word, study the sentence, and then understand Swami Akhandananda's explanation of that. It will take some while. And we might do that sometime in the future, but for now, for the purpose of what we are doing, a summary of that would be good. And I'm going to now provide you that summary. Okay? So, This section of Shankara Bhashya of the Brahma Sutra is called Nityatvam Viveka. So study this very well. A Viveka of Nityatvam. There is a word called Nitya. And the word Nitya is different from Satyam. So we will study, we already have studied and we will continue to study Satyam. But now at this point, we are going to do a Viveka of the word Nitya. Nitya means always there. Always there. Different from Satyam. We will see that later. But let's just do the Viveka of Nityatvam. Nityatvam is the sense of being Nitya. Nitya means always there. So how does always being there? Let's see what types of always being there are. Okay, so to give you a preliminary an idea, there are two ways of looking at Nitya, Nityatvam. One is called Parinami Nitya and one is called Kutastha Nitya. These are Sanskrit words and they have a lot of depth in it. But let me explain what those two words are. Nitya, you already explained, that means something which is stable, which appears always being there. I'm using these words carefully, which appears. Doesn't mean that it is always Satyam, but it appears to be very steady. And the good example of that is the Jiva. This is the Jiva. So the Jiva means that even if there are changes and so on, but my Jivatvam is very steady. It is Nitya. I am a person. I may be old, I may be young, I may be happy, unhappy, whatever it is, but that's who I am. Okay, so this is my understanding of Nitya. Okay? So this one is the first type called Parinami Nitya. Parinami Nitya means one which takes a form which appears to be steady, unchanging. Which appears to be. The second one is Kutastha Nityam. Kutastha Nityam. The word Kutastha has actually two meanings. Okay? Has two meanings to the word Kutastha. Both are relevant. Both are relevant, although the first one that I will mention is the primary meaning of the word Kutastha, and the second meaning is also used, but in a secondary sense, not in a primary sense. In a different sense, actually. I'll explain that. Kutastha means an anvil based on which things are done. So in the case of a metal worker, where you have to shape various forms of metal, you need something which is steady, unchanging, and unaffected by what is being pounded on it. So in the case of, for example, supposing you are making a metallic object. And so what happens is that the metal worker would heat that object until it becomes very hot and therefore it becomes malleable. And supposing you want to shape it in a particular way, you put that on an anvil and you pound it until you get it to the same shape as you want it to be. Whereas the anvil doesn't change at all. It is really the basis for around which all the changes are going. This is the first meaning of the word kutastha. The second meaning of kutastha is kuta is called false. This is almost like an opposite meaning to this. Very interesting. Kuta means false and could be taking any kind of a form. Doesn't matter. And in fact, it looks very strange and sometimes damaging. I'll give you some examples of that. But the one who is staying within the environment of falsity without being affected by it is called kutastha. So it's similar to the first one, but in a very different sense. So the first one is that there is some purposeful pounding to make a shape out of it, and you need a steady hand. It's called kutastha. And the second example is that there are all kinds of strange things, but you're not affected by it. This, by the way, is a very interesting example. It was given by Swami Chinmayananji very early on in my, and always has stayed with me. Do you know that if you see the Vigraha of Shiva, and the description of Shiva, I remember Swami Chinmayanand pointing this out, he is seen to be surrounded by snakes, fierce looking things. You wouldn't go near that thing at all. But he is standing there very comfortably, in the midst of it. And he's got skulls of people, dead, obviously skulls means of dead people, in his hand. As you and I would not be touching the skull. From a distance, we were not even close to it. It's okay to look at it in a museum or something, but you just say, okay, here comes a skull. No, don't give it to me. Nobody likes to be touching a skull. And he's known to be, Shiva is known to frequent places where bodies are burnt. Shmashana. And it is quite well recognized that when a person dies and the body is, of course we don't bury it, but we cremate it, the kind of jivatvam of the person kind of hangs around like a bhoot, like a ghost, for a while around there. Shiva loves that. You and I, if you ask somebody, okay, go to this place where our people had just gotten recently burnt, cremated, you wouldn't go there. Who wants to go to that? But Shiva loves it. So this is the second meaning of kutastha. Means you don't bother what's around you. So these are the two examples of the word kutastha. In the first one, you in fact lend support to changes, and in the other one, you are oblivious of anything. It doesn't make any difference. So the form of Shiva, shown very beautiful form, is he's sitting there in a lotus form, lotus pose rather, doing meditation. And there are snakes around him crawling. And then he's holding a skull in his hand. None of that seems to affect him. You can imagine that both of these, we will see this as we proceed further. We need to be like that. In the first example of kutastha, I have a lot I'm just going to go follow this parinami nityatvam and kutastha nityatvam for a while. So I am not done yet, but just to give you an idea, the kutastha nityam, I should understand that things are happening without my changes. And the second one is, if I am really understanding who I am not afraid of living amongst things that are unsavory. Doesn't make any difference to me. So this is what this is the direction that we are going. Okay, now that I've given you the two basic definitions of nityatvam, so please remember that. One is called parinami nityatvam, and the other one is called kutastha nityatvam. So Adi Shankara says that in order to do viveka of nityatvam, please see where you make a mistake by first understanding that there are two types of nityatvam. One is called parinami nityatvam and the other one is called kutastha nityatvam. So let's go into parinami nityatvam. What are the examples of that? And perhaps that's all the time that we will have today. We will go into kutastha nityatvam next time. Parinami nityatvam. So there is a very beautiful Sanskrit verse, which I have it, but I'm not. It's a complete paragraph. This is from Adi Shankara. Shankara's writing. So the definition of parinami nityatvam is that even when there are changes, my understanding is that there is a basis for the change that does not change itself. And the best example I could give you was you and I as a person. So it's very clear that for each one of us there is a lot of stuff that goes on in our lives. Continuous change. And in and through all those changes, I remain the same. I seem to remember, I seem to remain the same. So as a result, my conclusion is that since I remain constant amidst all the changes, then I must be that person. In this case, me as a person, as a jiva. This is my logic, this is my conclusion, this is my thinking. Okay, so this is one example. Swami Khandananda spends a lot of time on three things: Kala, Desha, and Dravya. A lot of the analysis of Vedanta is with respect to these three things. Kala means time, Desha means space, and Dravya means a form of objects, formful objects, called Dravya. Okay? All right. In terms of these three, let's look at Parinami Nityatva. So now we say the present time. Right now, for example, I look at the clock on my Google phone and it says 9:06. And I will glance at it from now and then. It'll go there. It goes to 9:07. Just a minute ago it was 9:06 and now it is 9:07. So this means the time is changing. Okay? But doesn't the time remain the same as an entity? That doesn't change, right? It's interesting, very lovely to see. I just spent some time at dinner before this class with my two young grandkids. And Arjun is, Sanya just turned 4, and Arjun is going to be 2 very shortly, in about a month or so. Does he have any concept of time? No. You can ask him, Arjun, what time is it? Oh, forget about what time is it. Of course, he doesn't know how to read and so on. But ask him, do you know time? He has no idea. Sanya, 4-year-old, is close to reading. I think she might already do what time it is on the clock. That's not easy to do. But she has no idea what. But I think she also would know that there is a thing called time. That time doesn't change. The concept of time does not change. Specific time may change depending on where you are, when you are, where I am. 9:09 just changes. But there is a flow of time does not change. In fact, the whole life is imbued with time. That time is called Parinami Nityam. Parinami Nityam. This is also another example of that. It is another called Pravaha Nityam. Pravaha Nityam means the flow. So another example given is that, for example, supposing you are sitting on the banks of a river and It's a river that never goes dry, like Mississippi or Ganga, or huge rivers. Anytime you go there, the river is there. Individual waves have all moved on. They are moving right in front of you, but the river by itself remains constant. This is called pravaha nityatva. So time by itself has two factors. One is that it has instant changing, second by second, millisecond, microsecond by microsecond. But overall it remains the same. We depend on it, we accept it, we don't challenge it, we think it's constant, even though it is not. And one example of that, when you say it is not, is going from waking state to dream. The relevance of time is totally different. Totally different. It's really amazing. During a matter of a few hours of dreaming, you have traversed a whole life. You were young, then you become old, and all in a matter. So the whole scale of time is very different. So the dream time is different than the waking time. Furthermore, when you are in deep sleep, there is no time. Time disappears. Only when you get up, you look at a watch and it says, I slept 7 hours today. That's pretty good. But while you are in deep sleep, you are no function of time. So, in all of this is what is called parinami nityatva. So if you stay with time, you can say that parinama means, what would be a good English word for parinama? Parinama would mean, I don't want to use the word change. I know I could use some other words like transforms. So whatever the sense there is, that during your waking life, time has one sequence, one way of looking at it. But when you go to a dream, it transforms itself into a completely different scale. Then it disappears. So this is what is called parinama. So parinama nityatvam is of that type. So now, just to close off this segment, and I think we'll spend a little bit more time next class on this, and then go to a more detailed explanation of kutastha nityatvam. But even here, the parinami nityatvam means there is a sense of stability, and you accept it. You accept yourself. You accept the time that you're living in. And similarly is the kind of space and some other things that we will talk about. So therefore now you rest in the lap of some stability. I think that's the way I would like to say that. We like stability. We like to be sitting somewhere where things are stable. So I am stable in being a jiva. I'm stable in being surrounded by time and space. And to that extent, and I don't know any more than that, right? The most I can think of is that time always will be there. space always will be there. And that's good enough for me. I'm not going to inquire any further. And if I talk about the time changing and so on and so forth, yeah, but I'm not quite sure. I'm happy with what I am. This is the problem. We talked about what is the flaw in this not finding freedom. My not questioning the relative stability, and going back to the Bhagavad Gita one, is that if I see myself as a person who sometimes acts, sometimes doesn't act, but I'm a person, if this is my idea of karma, then there are some flaws. So then we have not completed the other side yet, and we will not do that until we go through the logic of the Kutastha. But once we do that and we revisit the meaning of these Bhagavad Gita verses, karmani akarmanav yaf paschet, akarmani karma yaf paschet, sabuddhiman manushyeshu saha, that will become a little clearer as we go further. So we will do that in the next class on next Tuesday. And I think that I've already given a question to you about why are all the problems created in this life. And so you've given me some very good answers. And I will discuss that in the next Saturday class. And if you're not used to attending the Saturday class, this might be a good one to do because there'll be an interesting discussion which is related to what we are doing. So the two classes are synergistic. And at some point in time, we may have to separate them out. We will look into that. But if you can, then please attend the next Saturday class also. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. I don't know where that word consequence, I have not, I don't remember seeing that word consequence. I guess that doesn't really do anything for me. I will look into that to see what is a more logical English word for the parinama, so on. So, Keshav, the blueness comes from our experience. It doesn't come from any Upanishad or Shastra. You think that the blueness comes from as a result of reading something? Even a 1-year-old new baby knows the blueness. This is our experience. What Shastra is pointing out is that even though it is your experience, it is not real. That comes from the Shastra. But the very fact that blueness, and that also is not something that you cannot experience. When the Shastra says that the blueness of the sky does not belong to the space, it is very clear. You cannot, if there was blueness was a guna of the space, then supposing you wanted to dye your clothes, or you hang it out on a string to dye, it might become a little blue because the sky is blue. That doesn't happen. There's no, and in fact, in a room, there's no blueness here. The blueness comes from a sense of infinity. That's it. It's a very interesting thing. So the Shastra doesn't have to say that. But what Shastra says is, look at the reality of, this is the very meaning of mithya. Anyway, so that's what that is. All right, there's no other questions. So I will take your leave, and hopefully I'll see you later. Hari Om.